Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today, we start our video with another psycho client. I think you'll like it. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You should be paying me to talk to you. Many years ago, in the early days of cell phones, I worked customer service for a cell phone company whose name is just a bunch of letters. This man called in, and I was lucky enough to get him on my headset. "Thank you for calling Redacted. How can I help you?" Him, screaming, "This effing phone isn't working. I can't make calls and people call me and just get my voicemail. Fix it, GD." Usually, the first thing we do is have the customer power the phone off and then on again. 9 times out of 10, this re-registered the phone on the cell site and made it work again. So I suggest this to him. He just continues to scream. "F you! I'm not doing that! I'm a effing lawyer! My time is very valuable! People pay me hundreds of dollars an hour! You should be paying me to talk to you!" As he's ranting, I'm checking out the computer. We have 2 programs, one that was Windows-based, contained all the normal account stuff, and a DOS-based program that would show you what cell sites they were pinging off of, as well as allow you to deauthorize their phone, basically knocking it off the cell site until they powered the phone off and on. Sometimes the phones got hung up between sites. The Windows program could be seen by the bosses, but the DOS one could not. I check his account in Windows. He's all paid up and everything's fine from that angle. I pull up the DOS program, and sure enough, the cell sites aren't picking up his phone. So I tell him again to turn the phone off and on again, and that should fix the problem. "F you! I shouldn't have to do that! I shouldn't have to do anything, you dumb bee! You need to fix this right now, and I want my account credited for every second I can't use my phone." I explain that we can't do that, his service is fine, all he has to do is pick up the cell site again. He continues to scream, yell, and threaten to get me fired if I don't fix his phone and give him credit. I keep telling him he has the ability to fix the problem himself if he just presses that one little power button. After some more cursing and sputtering, he finally hangs up on me. After he hangs up and my ears stop bleeding, I go to add my notes about the call into the Windows program. I look back at the previous notes and see this guy has been a D-nozzle to every single operator he's ever spoken with. So I write his number down on a little Post-it and stick it to my computer. For the rest of the time I worked there, whenever I had a spare minute, I'd pull his phone up in the DOS program and knock it off the cell site. And I did it completely randomly, sometimes once a day, sometimes as many as 20. It gave me a certain perverse joy. And our next story. Give my hours away to a new hire? Prepare to lose your job. This happened a couple of months ago at an old employer. I worked at a supermarket in my state throughout high school and while in college in the United States, making $9 to start and only $10.50 at the end. The store had 1 store manager, 2 assistant store managers, 1 manager and assistant manager per department, which there were 9 departments. For 5 years, I worked every position there because who knew what hiring was, right? Understaffing was regular here, so if a department needed closing and I worked, I had to close it. From stocking to register to manager duties, everything was game. My biggest acknowledgments were being a bookkeeper, out terms of the person who keeps track of all the money, monitor, glorified cashier, basically wrangle the regular cashiers and divvy up cash drawers to each register, service desk, cigarettes, lottery, customer bullcrap, and store opener/closer. There were 5 people who knew bookkeeping, 2 other people besides me, and 2 managers who ran the front end of the store. There were about 5 monitors who all needed to be trained on service desk as well. Every monitor and bookkeeper needed to know how to open the store and close it. For being a supermarket in a town with about 20,000 people, we were severely understaffed. I worked 12 to 16-hour shifts at least once a week because people would call off all the time. Keep all this in mind for later on. Backstory. I started working here at 16 in high school, originally as a stock person. 25-hour work weeks, eventually moved up to 35-plus hour work weeks, moved up to register, then monitor, then service desk, and finally bookkeeping when I turned 18, now 21. The hours were always good. Never had a week drop below 35 hours at least, But it all changed because of some D-head. At the start of COVID-19, I was working while in college, so all these guidelines had to be followed. Everyone needed their toilet paper and hand sanitizer to keep COVID away. No biggie. On top of the guidelines, we also had been hiring a copious amount of people. The store had a history of training new hires with other people who've been working for maybe a month or so. So as you could guess, training was a disaster. But since COVID-19 had the store busy all the time, we needed more people. I wanted to train people the right way because I got sick of doing other people's jobs. In March, we had gotten 4 new hires to train for my position. Now, these new hires needed training on the service desk. Easy. Let them run it while I watched and helped out the best I could. Easiest way to get people to learn. Most of them needed trained on here because there were 3 of us total at the time who could run it. After training everyone, 1 per shift at a time over 4 weeks, there were 7 people now ready to F up the world. But everyone who knew how to run the service desk needed training on monitor too. Guess who had to train everyone for another position? After another 4 weeks of bullcrap, everyone got trained. Around this time was the end of May. This is where the juice begins. The juice. Starting in June, we'd been starting to lay off the hours since COVID-19 started to slow down. Hours started to get cut from all the register people from about 20 to 30 hours a week to 10 hours max. We got overstaffed and people started quitting left and right. Not a big deal because those positions were easy to fill. But that's when my hours started getting cut. At the time, the 1 new hire who started in March, who we'll call Helen, had been getting really good hours. I'm talking about my hours. We had the same problem. College money, car money, the works and all. But then I got scheduled for 16 hours one week, and they got scheduled for over 35 hours. Not once since I was 18 did I get less than 35 hours, so I decided to confront the assistant manager who was in charge of scheduling. We'll call him Frank. Hey, Frank, I noticed my hours got cut. What's happening? I know, everyone's hours are getting cut. I have to make room for everyone, you know? Yeah, I couldn't help but notice that Helen's still getting quite the hours, so you made room for her and no one else? I was unaware of that. I'll get you some more hours next week. The rest of the week was kind of boring since I was an alcoholic. No one called me to cover shifts or anything. The following week, I asked around to see who covered any shifts last week, and it turns out that all the new hires got called first. That kind of pissed me off, but hey, can't do anything about it now. Later that day, I checked my schedule, and what do you know? The same 16-hour week. I was livid at this point. I should have been honored for my seniority there, not getting effed over in hours. I went back to Frank and confronted him. Hey, what the hell is this? I thought you'd be finding me hours this week. I can't live off this. Well, it turns out that I couldn't find you hours. I tried calling. Bullcrap you tried calling me. Not a single person called me. Instead, all the new hires got called. What the hell, man? There's nothing I can do. Just might have to find another job. This pissed me off beyond belief. I was ready to pop. But this is when my bright idea came into play. For a couple of days, I searched around for other supermarkets in my area offering jobs. After about a day of searching, I found a job paying double what I made now for the same qualifications. I gave them a ring and got an interview the following week. The following day, I went into work for what I didn't know was my last shift and told Frank what was happening. Hey, Frank, I just wanted to let you know I took your advice. Advice? You mean finding another job? You're A-effing right. I hope you have fun. I'll never forget the look on his face, completely baffled. He didn't expect me to actually find another job so quickly. This is where my revenge began. Revenge. After I walked out of the D-head Frank's office, I went around doing my usual stuff. During every shift, a metric F-ton of paperwork needed to be processed in the computer in order to close the store correctly and set up bookkeeping for the next day. Fun fact, that day in particular was a SNAP day. For those who don't know what that is, it's the day that the government-funded food stamps arrive on everyone's EBT card monthly. That day, I decided to say F paperwork and just don't do the crap. I was quitting that day because my anger got the better of me. The store closes at about 12 a.m., and I walked out of that crap hole as free as can be. The next day, I woke up to find some really obnoxious and angry texts from coworkers. I completely disregarded them, unknowingly that they had said that I worked that morning. I went down to the supermarket to grab some things for my house As soon as I walked in the door, every ex-coworker of mine looked at me as if I had just passed on the floor. One of them pulled me aside, let's call them George, and this happened. George: "What the F, bro? I had to cover your shift this morning, and you have the balls to walk in here after that?" Me: "I don't work here anymore. F off." I continued to get my groceries and talked to one of my closer ex-coworkers there about what happened. As it turned out, Frank had no idea that the previous day was my last and that the entire front end of the store had gotten brutally effed over. Since the store closed at 12 a.m. and no paperwork was filed, our corporate called the assistant manager, also in charge of making sure all departments are closed correctly, and asked where all the paperwork was. No idea that I'd not filed it, Frank had to go into the store over an hour away from him to file all the paperwork himself. Not only that, tons of violations were given to him because since none of the paperwork got done by the person closing, no one had a record of anything done at the store from the previous day. On top of everything, the amount of paperwork needed done was practically doubled since that day was a snap day. As soon as the store manager heard about this, she was livid. After about a month, I was working my new job and heard some information about Frank. Apparently, he had to go to a meeting with our corporate bosses and the store manager. He'd gotten fired from his position due to all of this and had not been able to get a letter of recommendation from that employer also. Sucks to suck, huh? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.